Talking a bit about how I started comics, just sort of trawling through a few early things that I did, which was basically all hand-drawn and painted, and talk a bit about how I progressed from black and white to colour work, and now I'm going to talk about how I moved into producing artwork digitally, and go on to just discuss a bit what the possible future of comics is in relation to the web and new print media, things like that. So I hope you enjoy it. I don't know what that's about. So I started work professionally as a cartoonist about 21 years ago, working for 2008. But obviously before that there was a lot of stages where I was just drawing for myself and trying to get used to different materials, different techniques. This is the earliest drawing I could find that I'd done, which was when I was 16. So as you can see I wasn't exactly a child prodigy, so but basically I draw with anything I can get my hands on, which is mainly biro or fountain pen, or a bit later getting a bit more sophisticated with pencil work. I didn't really do other people's characters much. I mean, this is a drawing a man thing, but most of the stuff that I came across was just my own sort of characters and designs. By this point, I was getting more seriously into drawing for printing, so I started to use India ink and dip pens, rotary mapping pens, and on the right you can see I've used some sort of some tone, which you actually got on these sort of self-adhesive sheets, stuck on, cut round at the scalp and peeled off with the p.1. So the bit described just in here is this stick-on stuff called Electrotone. One of the big advantages of digital work is that you can really just put this stuff on in a couple of seconds and get the same sort of effect, whereas in these days you physically have to stick it onto the paper, cut round and peel off any bits you didn't want. If you're doing colour work, you have to mask off any bits that you didn't want to airbrush and peel the bits off when you're actually airbrushing. So in that respect, digital work is a lot more efficient than this was. I also played around at the time with designing a lot of logos, which is something that I really like doing now as well. Going digital has allowed me to pretty much do every aspect of a comic strip, right from writing it up to drawing it, inking it, colouring it, right up to the lettering. So I pretty much like to do everything on a comic strip now if I can possibly help it. I experimented with a few different styles, so this was sort of my early attempt at computer script. And then I started doing some work for other people's fanzines, so these were a couple of covers for other people's small press publications, which allowed me to get a lot of practice in on actually creating comic strips for other people. It meant I had to work to someone else's deadline. It also meant I improved a lot in the way I put a comic strip together, and I also work with other people, in this case inking someone else's pencils and lettering it. And I can really recommend working with someone else just to teach you something different about how someone else goes about putting their artwork together. What I liked about this guy's artwork is he used all these lovely solid blacks, which you can see someone like Paul Bristol uses. They kind of blend into each other to form this one shape, which I really like. Probably influenced me a lot. So, by the time I got to this page, I was getting fairly confident in how I was creating comic pages, and I started submitting stuff to 2000 AD. Now, the first load of stuff I submitted to was just my own characters. Mainly pin-ups. Didn't get anywhere with that. So I took a more targeted approach for my next lot of submissions and actually drew up 3 pages of their own characters and tried to show as much storytelling as I could. So the one on the left, Darren Ray, was chosen specifically because it's one of the few female characters for 2011. The one on the right, I have to say, was just pretty much done for pleasure because I love doing robots. And the other one that I did was a page of Judge Dredd, and I just tried to show sort of different aspects of storytelling in each one. And that actually got me my first work of 2000 AD. By the time I was doing this series, which was the second series I did for them, I was getting pretty confident in my black and white work and was quite happy with the way it was coming out. But you can see that it was immensely detailed, and I felt I sort of had to put every single little detail into the artwork. I kind of miss that sometimes, but on the other times I look at this and think it looks quite chaotic. But I rarely got to do colour work for 2000 AD. This is one of the few covers that I did for them, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but it came out quite well as it happened, and I think that's probably largely down to beginner's luck. So this would have been done in pen and ink and watercolour and gouache. The stars in the background of the sky there, for instance, would have been done with a toothbrush laid with white paint, which I just then flick on the page. And I also used to use a brush stitching in white paint and just sort of tap it on a pencil to get the larger stars, which was quite a nice sort of organic way to actually produce the effect. One of the nicest things about using traditional materials is that you often get sort of what I call happy mistakes. So if you wet a piece of paper and just drop bits of different coloured paint onto it and see what happens, you'll often get a really nice sky effect or a space effect that you can build up from that happy mistake that you've made and hopefully come up with something. I find that digital art is a lot more controlled, but hopefully now that I've sort of come onto digital art, I pretty much know what I'm doing, so I can actually create the same effects, but it's a much more deliberate process than using paint on paper. My first colour series for 2018 started off as a black and white series, so I drew it, I think, probably the first 5 episodes or so, I was drawing entirely in black and white. At which point 2018 decided that they were going to go over to a full colour comic. So what I ended up doing was actually photocopying the black and white artwork and then painting the photocopies. So it was pretty basic colour. You can see that it was intended to be a black and white strip in the first place, I think, because it's so claustrophobic. But by the time I was getting onto the later episodes and realising it was going to be in colour, my line work changed a lot, became a lot more open, so you can see on the left the line work, I've left a lot of space for places that I'm going to use in colour effects. That's more like the way I work now. I think everyone that worked on 2000 AD went through a fairly painterly phase, and a lot of the time the painted artwork when it was printed would come out just looking like a sort of brown mess. But some of the pages from this strip, which was a strong colour strip, I think, actually came out quite nicely because I was using fairly sort of bold colours in the background, quite a lot of solid blacks. By the time I got to this Strong Dog strip, I was pretty much happy with the style that I was using. I'm just going to move this chair. So it's a caption. I was using quite old sort of black outlines and lots of deep shadow, but if you look down the bottom you can see that I was using an immense array of different materials to actually produce it. So this used fibre tips, India ink, watercolour, gouache, colour pencil and airbrushing, and probably a bit of rotary pen as well, just to